So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Hiduku back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, March 23rd. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, March 23rd here today. We are now on Tuesday. Rangers got a big win last night. Not really big, meaning, in terms of, big win for like playoffs, because we did beat the worst team in the NHL in the Buffalo Sabres. Well, we did score 5 goals. We did get hot on offense. We had 3 goals in 1 period, so we definitely had a lot of positives. They did make it interesting, the Sabres. We were up 3-1. They came back and tied it 3-3 with 2 goals in a matter of like 5 minutes. Then the Rangers scored a goal with like 5 minutes left in the game. And then they scored one more empty net goal, which obviously the Sabres really can't do much about that. There's no goalie there. So it's 4-3, and then plus the 1 empty net goal. So it's 5-3. The Rangers got the win. We move over the NHL 500 mark for, I think this is like the second time this season. We've been back and forth, and that's been one of the things with the Rangers. We've been hovering around the NHL 500 mark. We've been, one day we're above it, one day we're below it, one day we're right at 500. There's some days where we're like 2-3 games below. There's some days that we're only like a game out. So, we we got to try to keep winning games. We got a lot of big games coming up, a lot of very big games. This was, I look at this game as get it done, get it out of the way, move on from it, right? It was against the Sabres. They're a struggling team. They got it done, they got the win. And that was one of my worries going into the game, was would they be looking ahead to maybe one of their biggest matchups of the season, the Philadelphia Flyers coming up on Thursday? Would they be caught looking ahead to that matchup with kind of everyone, thinking that this game would be an easy win? But the Rangers did get the win. It was interesting. It was close. But at the end of the day, they got the win, and that is all that matters. So good win for the New York Rangers. So Nets play today. They have a West Coast trip, so they are playing 10 p.m. Eastern time today against the Trailblazers. They have a little bit of back-to-back, and then they have a day off Thursday, then they play again Friday. So the Nets are on a little bit of a 3-game road trip. They will be without Kyrie Irving for that 3-game road trip, so it's up to James Harden and new addition Blake Griffin to try to get wins on this road trip. It's obviously a whole lot tougher when you're losing one of the better ball handlers in the league in Kyrie Irving. So hopefully we get the win there. March Madness yesterday, normal, just another upset. Oregon upsets number 2 Iowa, so they moved to the Sweet 16. I'm not even surprised at this point. I was texting with people yesterday. I was like, I'm not surprised. You sit there and watch that game, it's not surprising that Oregon beat Iowa. It's not surprising. If the only thing I would be surprised at right now is if Gonzaga goes down. If Gonzaga goes down in the championship, that would be surprising, but not as surprising because it's a championship. But I would be very surprised if Gonzaga does lose, because Gonzaga's on another level. But I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these teams lose. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't even be, not Baylor, but not like Baylor, but even Michigan. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get upset here. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Florida State or someone get upset. I wouldn't be surprised. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see Oral Roberts win another game. Loyola Chicago go deep. So, I really wouldn't be surprised with any of this stuff. But the March Madness, as they always say, it's the March Madness, so there's a bunch of madness. And this year, there's been so many upsets. So, like I said, you could forget about brackets. Although, I say this all the time. I usually do a Sweet 16 bracket, a separate one, and I think sometimes I do an Elite 8 bracket. But I think Sweet 16, I'm going to do one this year, so I'll probably tell you that within the next coming days. It's Tuesday. Sweet 16 starts, I believe, on Saturday. So we've got some time. We've got a couple days before those games start. And like I said, too, there's a little bit of a pause in the action in college basketball. Today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's no college basketball on. So it's gonna feel like there's nothing on just because college basketball has spoiled us from Thursday till yesterday. There's been games all Thursday, all Friday, all Saturday, all Sunday, and all yesterday. So it's gonna spoil. We were getting spoiled, but now we're gonna have a couple days without college basketball. But then the real real good games start up when you get to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and you get to the Final Four, and then the championship. That's when it all gets really fun then. So let's get into the topics for today. Yesterday, like I said, Rangers played. Other than that, some college basketball stuff. Not crazy of an update. Knicks head off. Nets head off. Yankees took a loss yesterday. Like I said, I'm kind of just ready for the season. Spring training is good and all, but I'm kind of to the point now where let's get to the season. Let's get it underway. I'm ready for it. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because not all the games are televised, but I feel like this spring training, it seems a little bit longer. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's you. I don't know. I feel like it's a little longer. I feel like by now we would have the season started. But the season, come Thursday, is officially a week away. I like spring training baseball and all. It's good and all, but I want regular season baseball at this point. I want to see Garrett Cole back in pinstripes. I want to see the Yankees start their chase for 162, or start their chase of 162 games for number 28, which is 28 World Series. So, but that's all that good stuff. So let's get into the topics for today. As I mentioned yesterday, if there's no breaking news, if there's nothing crazy to talk about, the Giants did sign Adoree Jackson. I kind of figured I might talk about that tomorrow. I know it's kind of a big storyline today, but I figured, you know what? I know they signed him and all that stuff, but I kind of really wanted to get to some of these other topics. So my first topic up for today's podcast is Adam Fox. So Adam Fox, defenseman for the New York Rangers, has, just been on another level. And, he's just been on another level, and there's not much else I got to say by that. So, there's a lot of stuff I want to say about Adam Fox, but I wanted to get into how good he's been this season and kind of make a little bit of a push for me to try to tell you why he should win the Norris Trophy, which is the Defenseman of the Year. And very rarely do I do this with my teams where I say one player should win an award, because a lot of my teams I don't do that. Now, the Jets, usually they never have a player on the team that's going to win an award. Except the Jamal Adams, I did hope that he was going to be a first-team All-Pro, which he was, so I agreed with that. And I was hoping that he would be in the Pro Bowl. Marcus May, but anyway, the Jets, even the Nets, back then, I was not hoping for the Nets. I was hoping, but I never really kind of wanted a player to really, win an award, because that would be, a little bit of a leaning towards the side. To be realistic, the Nets back then never really had anyone. And the Nets now, too, Kevin Durant was definitely up there for MVP, but with his injury now, I don't think he's really much in the race anymore. You could say James Harden's a dark horse. I'm not going to get into all that. That's a very debating subject. MVP in basketball is one of the most argumentative subjects out there, which I like. I like to debate about sports, but I'm not going to get into that. So Adam Fox, I kind of said, last year with Artemi Panarin, I made a strong push trying to tell as many as I can why he's the MVP. He ended up finishing third. He ended up finishing as a finalist in the MVP voting. So that was Artemi Panarin. This year it's Adam Fox. I truly believe Adam Fox should win the Norris Trophy, which is Defenseman of the Year. And I'm going to provide stats to you why I think he should do it. And I also want to tell you not even just the Norris Trophy, but just the fact of how much he's improved. He had a very good year last year, but this season he's on another level. And I really want to talk about that. I really wanted to get into how good he's been playing and how much of a key factor he is to this Rangers team. So I'm going to get into him. Then tonight, I have my fantasy baseball draft. First year ever playing fantasy baseball. I mentioned this about a million times on this podcast. I was going to do one last year, but then with the virus hitting, the season got paused. It messed everything up. And this year, obviously, with playing a full 162 and the season starting at a normal time, April 1st, I'm in the league. I'm not owning the league. I didn't create. Usually, I always create the leagues. I don't have their league. I might create another league. I'm not entirely sure. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4 leagues, because fantasy basketball, hockey, and then 2 baseball leagues. And baseball leaks into, or not. I don't know if it leaks into football actually. Baseball comes close to football, though, because baseball, you got to realize the regular season ends in September. So baseball comes close to football, which would then mean that football. So I could potentially, this baseball league will go for a long time. So just know the baseball league will definitely go for a very long time. So we'll get into the fantasy baseball. I kind of wanted to do a big board. So a big board, kind of the top players. I have a list of a top 100 players. I don't really want to read all 100 of those players because that would take me hours to go through each one of them, tell you why he's in this slot. But I kind of wanted to go through kind of wanting to go through like the top 10, top 15 players, maybe top like 30, and tell you why they're there, tell you like who you should draft. I'm new to this, so if you have any suggestions down below, that would be great, because I'm new to fantasy baseball. I'm kind of going into it. I always go into it with a plan, but I'm kind of going into it this year a little bit of a kind of dry. Like, I'm not kind of just testing the waters a little bit. I've never played fantasy baseball, so we'll see how it all plays out. I would love to get the first pick, but this is one of the times where getting the first pick wouldn't be great, because I don't really know who to draft. Like, do I go pitcher first? Do I go catcher first? Do I go, a power hitter for, like, what do I do, right? It's kind of one of those things. I'm sure if I get a first overall pick, I'm probably going to take someone like a Acuna or like a Trout or someone like that, and then I'll go pitcher second round, or something later like that. But I do hope I get the first pick, because the first pick, or even anywhere, like the first or third pick, actually, as a matter of fact, in a draft like this, having maybe one of the middle picks might be better, because it is 10 people. So having the first pick, you won't pick until a really long time. So we'll see how it all plays out. So we'll get into that. Then we'll get into the New York sports update. Like I said last night, there wasn't crazy amounts of action on, but there was still some action. New York sports today. The Nets play Rangers as day off. Yankees also played today. So that's a plus. And that's kind of what I got for the New York sports. But with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the New York Rangers yesterday got another win against the Buffalo Sabres. They got a 5-3 win. And I said yesterday that I wanted to talk about Adam Fox. I said it yesterday. I said that I was planning on talking about him. I said that I was planning on talking about him one of these days. And I thought, you know what, yesterday he played in his 100th game as a New York Ranger, which it seems crazy to me as a fan, because I saw his first game, which was, his rookie year was last year. And it's crazy to see now that he's already played 100 games. It really is crazy. It's crazy how fast time flies with him playing already 100 games. So yesterday was his 100th game of his NHL career, and boy did he make that 100th game special. He had a goal and 2 assists yesterday, so he had 3 points. And he was a big reason why the New York Rangers got the win yesterday against a struggling Buffalo Sabres team. It was a close game, though. It was a close game. But I can't take that away from the Sabres. They made it competitive. But Adam Fox definitely was a big part of, why we won that game. And he's a big part of why the Rangers are making a playoff push right now. And that might sound crazy to many of you, to be like, oh my gosh, the Rangers are actually making a playoff push. I said at the beginning of the year, I said the New York Rangers, I don't expect us to win the Stanley Cup. I would love that to happen, but I don't think it's not going to happen. It would take an absolute miracle. It would take an Oral Roberts type miracle to win the Stanley Cup. So we're not going to win the Stanley Cup. I know that. That's completely outrageous to say. But I did say at the beginning of the season, I do believe playoffs is a relatively like normal goal. I don't think it's outrageous. I don't think it sounds completely favoring my team. I think it's perfectly okay. And I said that at the beginning of the year. And the Rangers have had ups and downs this year. And this is where I get into really Adam Fox here. The Rangers have had ups and downs this year. They've had moments where they've won 3-4 straight games. They look amazing. And they have times where they come out and they have maybe their worst performances we've seen all year long. And that's another thing too. They'd probably one of their worst performances of the entire year against the Bruins, or I believe it was against the Bruins, came out the next game, shut out the Bruins. So that's an up and down. We were going down, then we had a shutout, we went up. We were like, okay, all right. And that's another thing. We had a great, we were playing really well against the Capitals, blew the lead late, we were going down. Then we came out the next day, beat them, we're going up. We've had a lot of ups and downs this season. The Rangers haven't been able to build consistent winning streaks. To be honest, we're on a 2-game winning streak now, but if we really want to come out of this East Division as a playoff contender and be the 4 seed, we need to get on 4, 5, 6-game win streaks instead of these little 2-game win streaks here and there, these 2-game losing streaks here and there, a couple more 2-game win streaks. That's not going to help. That's why we hover around the 500 mark every year. Or all season long, because we get these little win streaks, and we go on these little losing streaks. We get these little win streaks. It's back and forth. We got to try to find a way to win more. And consistency is big to me. And it's a young team, so building consistency is going to take time. I realize that. Many other Rangers fans realize that. And even if you're not a Rangers fan, I'm sure if your team has gone through a rebuild before, you should realize that as well. Young players in any sport, not just hockey. Young teams, it's going to take time to build chemistry. It's going to take time to build consistency. And consistency, when I judge a player, I say this 90 million times in this podcast. I've said this a billion times in this podcast. I judge a lot of times players off of consistency. And Adam Fox has been one of the consistent players on the Rangers and has been one of the consistent players in the entire NHL. And maybe the most consistent among defensemen. And that's where he should win a Norris Trophy. This is a guy who is on the ice the most out of any Rangers player. He has about, Adam Fox, this season, he averages about, this season, he's got about, I got to check here. This season, he puts up about 24 minutes of ice time per game. 24 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time this game. I believe 2 games ago, it might have been against the Capitals, he was out there for 28 minutes. Right? NHL games are 60 minutes long. He almost played half of the game. And you might think that's crazy. Oh, you might think that's not a lot, only playing half of the game. That's a lot. The average in the NFL in the NHL of ice time is like anywhere between like 17 minutes and or maybe 15 minutes and 18 minutes of ice time. That's probably the average per game. Adam Fox, he's had games this season where he's on the ice for 28 minutes. And that's not 28 minutes straight. That's just different shifts. But that's huge. When you have a guy, it's very rare do you have a guy that has the endurance to go out there and skate for 28 minutes and while he's out there, make an impact. If you could go out there and skate for 28 minutes, good for you. You can go out there and skate and make an impact like Adam Fox has. That's just on another level. And Adam Fox this season has done so much for this Rangers team. It's almost like he's a rookie, but it's almost like he acts and teaches guys like he's a veteran. He's only in his second year, but his mind and his thinking and his teaching to guys like Julien Gauthier and guys like K'Andre Miller is almost like he's veteran, but he's only in his second year too. And that's another thing too. When you guys get guys that can think and use their mind, and they use their mind like they've been in the league for 15 years, that's a hidden gem. If you're getting a guy in Adam Fox who's only 22 years old. This is a guy who's only 22 years old. And the Rangers have said they don't know how much ice time, they don't know if all the ice time's good for him, but Adam Fox keeps saying he loves doing it. He wants to go out there and make his greatest impact as he can on the team. And that's what's great. And he'll do anything for the team, too. This is not a guy that's going to go out there and try to shoot the puck 50 million times just to try to get a goal. This is a guy who's going to pass the puck. This is a guy who's going to do what's right in that certain situation. And that's another thing. He plays the game with his mind. And if you think I'm crazy, look him up. Everyone says it. He plays the game with his mind. He's one of the smartest players out there. He does what's right in the situation. And you could tell that. It's almost like he plays chess. You know how chess, you got to think ahead? He's thinking ahead when he's out there on the ice. He's thinking ahead when he's out there on the ice. When he gets that puck, it's almost like he exactly knows what to do with it. He can read the defense. He can read yesterday, for example, he was reading what the Sabres were doing. Whenever he plays against a team, he's going to read what they're doing. For example, next game, he'll read what the Flyers are doing. But when he was out that one game because of COVID protocol, you could tell he was missed. Because the Rangers did not have that one key defenseman. You could tell there was a missing part to that team. And maybe you didn't tell it, but when you're a Rangers fan, you watch most of the games, or I've seen all the Rangers games this season. When you're a fan and you've seen all the games, you could know when a player's absent. And I realized that when Artemi Panarin was out too. There was moments in games where you were like, you know what, if we had Panarin in the situation, we would be successful. There was times in games where we were missing shots that Panarin would probably make. top shelf. One of Panarin's greatest things he could do, go top shelf on a goalie. There was a lot of times we didn't have that player to fill in with Panarin, and you could tell in a moment where, we could have went top shelf on the goalie. We were like, you know what, Panarin could have done that for us. And Adam Fox, the same thing. When there was times where there was a miscommunication, you were like, you know what, if Adam Fox was out there, a guy who is very smart on the ice, a guy who thinks ahead, a guy who, reads defenses and reads, formations really well, we could have used him in that situation. And that's exactly what Adam Fox does. And that's exactly what you need in a Norris Trophy. And this is a guy who's in his second year. He's still at a very young age. He's only 22 years old. And he's got 21 points this season, 3 goals, 18 assists, 21 points, and in his career, he's had 63 points in 100 games. That's pretty darn good to have 63 points in 100 games. And yesterday, he had a 3-point game against the Buffalo Sabres, and the Rangers are rolling right now. We've won 4 of our last 5, so we're looking pretty good there. And, it's a guy who's in his last 5 games, he's had 6 points in his last 5 games. He's had a +7. He's had 9 shots on goal, and he's averaging in his past 5 games, his total ice time in his last 5 games is 120 minutes and 45 seconds. And yesterday, for example, 24 minutes on ice. And just for another example, against the Capitals on Saturday, let me mind you, that was a back-to-back. The night before, he played 26 minutes. He then played 28 minutes on ice. That's a back-to-back. You know how hard it is for players to even play a back-to-back, let alone have played 28 minutes of ice time on a back-to-back? And to get into kind of his skill set, this is a guy who, very good passer. He makes the passes, right? You get him to that right side face-off circle down in the zone. He pops it back out. You get a hard slap shot like Jacob Trouba or someone like that. Because he's on so many different lines, it's tough to tell. Because he'll stay on for 2 to 3 line changes. Another thing, too, what he's very good at. Kreider is he stands in front of the net. Fox is very good, and he knows Kreider's very good at that. You give the puck to Kreider, he's going to make you play in the front of the net, and that's the truth. Kreider had another goal last night, assisted by Artemi Panarin. He popped it right into the front of the net. And Kreider stands right up there. And that's one of the big things. And Fox knows he tries to get it to him. And Fox will do a little move, maybe try to deke him, and get it to the front of the net. And Kreider does his business from there. And Fox is very good. He's a very good attacker. He's a guy that he'll kick it out. You give him back the puck, he's going to take it. He might take it behind the net. And that's another thing, too. When he takes it behind the net, he's stinking. It's almost like he saw something that wasn't right, or he saw something and they could execute on that opportunity. And that's another thing, too, with Adam Fox. Just another thing for why he should be the defenseman of the year. Adam Fox, another thing with him is he's very good at keeping the opponents on long shifts. And I mean this and you could see this a lot of times. A lot of times players, they'll get tired after a little bit. The average time on ice is probably about 30 to 45 seconds. Anywhere past a minute, you could tell players start to get tired and things like that. Things like that start to happen. Adam Fox, he could be out there for 2.5 minutes and he'll look perfectly fine. Eventually, it's going to wear off on him a little bit. But that's another thing, too. When you're in a power play situation, or if the other team, let's say the first power play, the other team's forcing a lot of shots. We're not getting saves. We're not stopping things. And all the Rangers are trying to do is just get out of the zone. We would put in a guy like an Adam Fox. He's one of our better penalty killers out there. Him and Chris Kreider, very solid on the penalty kill. And that's been pivotal for us. I mean, we have a top 10 penalty kill in the league, and Adam Fox has been a big part of that. Because, he's a guy that could be out there for 2 minutes. He's a guy that could be out there for the whole power play and still skate perfectly fine after the power play's over. And that's you don't get that often. There's not players out there who do that often. There's not many players you find today, no matter if you're 22 years old or if you're in your 30s. There's nowhere, no matter how old you are, you don't see players have this much ice time and be able to go out there and have this much endurance to go out on the ice and play 28 minutes. And let me mind you, that was on a back-to-back, a second half of that back-to-back. And the night before, he went over his average. He had 26 minutes of ice time. And yesterday, and against the Capitals, 28 minutes. And yesterday, he had 24 minutes, which is back down to his average. So, Adam Fox has been really good. And against the Flyers, he only had 18 minutes of ice time. But we beat him 9-0. So we started to put in some different line combos and let some of the younger guys get a line. Blackwell, guys like that. We let some of them get more action. So you can take that game and throw it out too. And let me mind you, in 18 minutes of that game, he also got an assist. And he had a plus minus of +3. This guy in his last 5 games is at a +7. 6 points in his last 5 games. That's more than a point per game. He had a 3-point game yesterday, 3 straight points the past 3 games, and even when he's not getting points or goals and assists as a point, he's getting shots on goal, he's getting pressure, he is, he's getting ice time, he's playing smart, he's, even like I said, a lot of times things don't go on stat books, but even just a simple, getting the puck out of the defensive zone or saving the puck from the offensive zone or, rushing down the ice, stopping a 2-on-1, creating a 2-on-2, right? Something like that, whatever the case may be, he does it all, right? That doesn't go down in the stat book of, Adam Fox took this puck and, Adam Fox killed this penalty. That doesn't go down in the stat book. Or, if there's a shot that comes at him and, or he cuts off a pass, that doesn't go really into the stat book. It might, but it's deep into the stat book. So, he's big. He's a big asset of this team. And to only be 22 years old and be playing this much, and let me mind you, February 17th was his birthday. So he's only 22 and he's young into his 22. And it's a guy who's going to go out there and play this much ice time. And, obviously, actually, the Calgary Flames, I believe, drafted in 2016, the 3rd round, if I'm remembering correctly. Then trades and stuff like that happened. Went to the Rangers. He's 5'11", but he's such a dominant player, and this season, obviously, he's played, in March he's played 11 games. He's had 11 points in March. Every game he's played, all the games in March, he's got 11 points, so he's averaging about a point per game. His plus minus is +6, and his total ice time in March has been about 23 minutes and 49 seconds per game in March. So he's still doing well. And that's another thing, too. His upcoming game here this season against Philadelphia, he's gotten 2 points. He's got a +2 this season. And he's got a little bit of an increase there. And on the road this season, which is coming up against Philadelphia, he's at 8 points on the road, a +3. And, the most ice time on this list. And then in wins this season, too. That's another thing, too. If you really want to get into it, wins, I believe, is a big factor. What you do in wins, he's a big contributor. This season, he's got 14 points in wins, and we've had 14 wins this season. He's got a +17 in wins. His total ice time is 24 minutes and 26 seconds in wins. And let me mind you, some of that got taken down from the fact that it was against that Flyers game. But when Adam Fox is on the ice, it's like things just completely change. And like I said, last season he played 70 games. This season he played 30 games. It was 100 games. He's got 11 goals in his career. He's a defenseman, so he's not going to score 50 goals a year. He's not going to have He's not going to have many 40-goal seasons. He's got 52 assists in his career. In just 100 games, to have 63 points is a lot. For 100 games, that's pretty solid if you ask me. His plus minus in his career is about +30. Which is really good. He's got 189 shots on goal, and let me mind you something. And power play goals this season too. He's had 3 power play goals in his career, and he's very well in the power play too. He has 22 power play assists this year. Last season he had 12 power play assists. This season he's already got 10. So I imagine he definitely surpasses that. Another thing with Adam Fox here too is mentioned earlier with the veteran about him, but there's it's only a 56-game season this year. So some of the stats are going to be a little different. For example, like let me see here. Let me think of something. Like 125 shots on goal in 80 games or 70 games last season. That's probably not going to happen this year. I mean, he's got This season's got 64. We got 26 games left. So you figure we got like 26 games around there left. He would need 64. He's going to need like 60 more shots on goal. I mean, maybe he does, but we're over half. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to reach that. Like some of the stats, it's going to be tough to reach. But the power play assist is big to me. That sticks out, and that's something I really wanted to mention today. Was he's about to surpass his power play assists from last season, and that just goes to show you how much of a key he is on the power play. And he's got 22 power play assists in his career, and obviously this season he's had 24 minutes of ice time. He's up 20. He's up 6 minutes in last season, which is a lot. And let me tell you, 26 minutes of ice time in the National Hockey League is a lot. He's top of the league in that. He's very high in the league in that category. So think that a 60-minute hockey game, you're out there for 26 minutes isn't a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of time. Look up the averages, all that good stuff. It's a long time. A lot of these guys, they may only be playing 15-7 minutes. He's up playing in the 28-minute range. So, Adam Fox has been amazing this year. And after reading all these stats, maybe you still don't think he should win the Norris Trophy. But I think after reading all this, telling you all this, I think it's clear that this is a guy that's a Norris Trophy winner. And if he doesn't win the Norris Trophy, he should be a Norris Trophy finalist. But I really believe Norris Trophy should be his this season. He's not only improved, he's improving. He's playing smart. He's playing a lot of minutes. He's a big impact. He's getting points. Sometimes it's tough for defensemen to get as many points as him. And like I said, yesterday was a big part of that game. He was the first star of his game, playing in his 100th game, had a 3-point game. By the way, points is when your assists and goals are combined. So let's just say you have 3 points. Like a goal is considered a point. So that's how the point system works. Just want to make that clear. If you think that points is like goals, that's not the case. Because if that's the case, then he had a hat trick. Hey, he had a hat trick yesterday. But like points is your assists and goals combined for that game. So let's just say you don't get any goals or assists, you don't get a point that game. Let's say you get a goal, you get a point. Let's say you get an assist, you get another point. So that would be like 2 points. Yesterday, you got a goal and 2 assists, that's 3 points. So this is a guy who racks up points, gets a lot of guys, and helps out a lot of the guys on the ice. And a big win for the Rangers yesterday to secure their 14th win in the season. And we can honestly get into the standings here, and then I'll get to fantasy baseball. But right now, the Rangers stand 31 games played, which means we have 25 games left this season. 14 wins, 13 losses, 4 OT losses, so we're above the NHL 500 mark. We've had 32 points this season. The 4-seeded Boston Bruins have 36 points. The 5-seeded Flyers have 34 points. So the Rangers have an opportunity here to take advantage of this. And the Rangers have an opportunity here to take advantage of some of these games coming up. The Rangers games coming up, they've got the Flyers twice, Capitals twice, then the Sabres again. The Rangers have to take advantage of these games. They've got to start taking advantage of some of these games. I mean, big time. And I'm not just saying that just to say that. It's the truth. We need to start taking advantage of these wins. These need to start taking advantage of these games. We're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. 4 points. That could very well mean OT win, then we're only 2 points out. So, the Rangers, man, we're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. We've got to win some of these big games coming up. I'll tell you what, this might be the important stretch of games this season for the New York Rangers. These next, I would say, the Rangers, they play, these next 5 games are the most important stretch of games this year. Because they got the Flyers twice, Capitals twice, and the Sabres. So these next 5 games might be the most important stretch of games. Even if you go 3-2, okay, you went 3-2, that's fine. But we better get at least 1 or 2. We better at least beat the Flyers. If we don't beat the Flyers either game, that's going to be a problem. And if we only beat the Capitals once, if we go 2-3 on this 5-game important streak here, or even against the Capitals and the Flyers, at least go 500. I would love to go 3-1, but I'm asking a lot there. I would love to go 4-0. But the Rangers, these games are important. Very, very important. And the Rangers are getting healthy at the right time. We're getting Igor Shesterkin back, which is big. one of our top prospects should be playing for us very soon, as long as he passes some of the COVID protocol stuff. So the Rangers right now, this is a moment where we have a true opportunity these next couple games to gain ground and possibly, within the next couple of weeks, be in a playoff spot. And when we get to that playoff spot, we got to hold on to it. So that's what I got for the Adam Fox and the New York Rangers stuff. Comment down below your thoughts on him. Coming up next, we're going to get into the fantasy baseball big board. I'm sure many of you will be doing your drafts very soon. And even if you're not, you could still listen and take some advice on fantasy baseball. I do my draft tonight again with a league. I have 10 people in my league, so that should be super fun. I'm excited. Usually I'm in leagues with 6 people, so adding 10 people is a lot. But it's good. It creates a good challenge. Like I said, my goal is to always win fantasy, but you obviously have miniature goals as well. Like, I don't want to finish in last. I would love to finish top 4. The goal is to win it all, but you got mini goals set in as well. So I'm going to get into fantasy baseball big board, tell you some guys you can look at the draft, and, tell you the top players. I don't know if I'm going to go through all top 100, just because it's going to take a long time, but I'm probably going to go through the top 20 maybe, and kind of go from there. So, coming up next, we'll have that. Alrighty, so this is a list here, and like I said, this is a list that, I found and stuff, and I usually make my own list. So my list might be a little different than this list. Like, for example, Trout's number 5 on this list. I might bump him up to like number 3. But I'll get into that when I talk about it. So this is actually someone made this list, but I kind of did some switching with this list as well. So the way I tell you will be in this order, and then the other way will be like for example, like let me just think of a player here. Like Trevor Story, I don't know if he should be 11. I'm not going to tell you if he should be higher or lower. I just don't know if he should be 11. Jose Ramirez, I don't know if he should be 8. I'm not going to tell you if he's higher or lower, but there's obviously some things. So Jose Ramirez is good, don't get me wrong. But sometimes, these guys might be slightly ranked, in different ways. So I usually the way I rank mine is, if you just want advice here, the way I ranked mine is I usually go by production last season, a little bit of what fantasy tells me, and mostly is what I just think. Because stats and all that, I love that. It's good and all, but it is a new season. And, sometimes judging off of last year is tough with 60 games. So, if you're going to try to judge a guy off of last year, it's going to be tough to do. Because let's just say he only notched 10 home runs. Well, yeah, he only notched 10 home runs because it was a 60-game season. So sometimes you got to bring that into consideration. So just make that clear there. And if a guy like a pitcher, let's say he got a 3.50 ERA last season, but the past couple years he's had into the 2s, well, yeah, last season was a shortened season. He might have struggled and stuff like that. So you got to put that into consideration. You also got to put into consideration guys like Randy Arozarena and stuff who broke out last season. I can't promise that those guys are going to be absolute beasts, right? He had a really good playoff series, and that was it. We got to see if he's not a one-year wonder. So we got to see how that plays out. So there's obviously other stuff. But the way I approach fantasy is I always go in with a plan. And I'll get to the top players here and then kind of just tell you some guys you can look at and stuff like that. I always go in with a plan. I usually always have a list of, players to draft. Usually I always go in, whenever someone drafts a player, I cross them off. But usually I'm so focused on who I'm going to draft next, I completely forget to do that. So usually I know when a guy is off the board, like you don't see him there. Like, for example, if I'm looking to draft Mike Trout, I'm going to know Mike Trout's off the board. So that's how I usually do it. But, usually during the draft, you'll take a quick peek at the list. But sometimes your whole plan during the draft sometimes just goes out the window. During the draft, you're just, you're so zoned in. You kind of forgot about, everything you should do. But I still make a list anyway, if you're up there. And there's sometimes where draft you take longer than other, picks. And that's where a list comes in handy, is when you have a list there and you don't know who to really draft. You can look down your list and say, you know what, this is a guy who hasn't gotten drafted yet. This guy has. We got to find kind of the middle there. I could use this guy. Do I need an outfielder? Do I need a DH? And I always bring into a bunch of stuff into consideration too. Yes, I'm a Yankees fan, and yes, I really like Aaron Judge and stuff. But am I going to draft him that early? I don't know, because he's injured. And he strikes out a lot. And that doesn't help the fact that in fantasy. So that doesn't help in fantasy. Strikeouts are going to hurt you. Injuries are also going to hurt you. Now, Garrett Cole, I will look to draft him early, not just because he's a Yankee, because he's one of the best pitchers in the MLB. DeGrom too. Even though he's a Met, I'm going to look to draft him early. If I can get my hands on DeGrom, I will definitely take advantage of that. So, obviously there's so much stuff there. But let's get through some of these players here. I'll kind of give you the top 20 here, and then you could really break it down into catcher categories. As I said yesterday, Salvador Perez is actually number 2 on catchers. Then you can get to first baseman. You could really break it down. First baseman, second baseman. I'm sure Mayhew leads that list. Ozzie Albies, Whit Merrifield, guys like that. So, all those different guys like that. But with all that being said, let's get into the top. This is the top 100 overall. I'm not going to do all top 100. I will probably just tell you like the top 30, and then I'll tell you, some of the guys that you could target. So let's get into this. So ranked number 1, Ronald Acuna Jr. Ranked number 2, Mookie Betts. Ranked number 3, Fernando Tatis Jr. Number 4, Juan Soto. Number 5, Mike Trout. Number 6, Jacob deGrom. Number 7, Trey Turner. Number 8, Jose Ramirez. Number 9, Garrett Cole. Number 10, Christian Yelich. Number 11, Trevor Story. Number 12, Shane Bieber. Number 13, Freddie Freeman. Number 14, Cody Bellinger. Number 15, Trevor Bauer. Number 16, Francisco Lindor. Number 17, Manny Machado. Number 18, Bryce Harper. Number 19, Anthony Rendon. And coming in at number 20 is DJ Mayhew, obviously another Yankee. So it's nice to see 2 Yankees in the top 20, 1 Yankee in the top 10, and that being Garrett Cole. So far, there's not crazy changes I will make. I'm going to go through the next 10, and then we'll get into some of the changes and maybe some of the players you can look to draft. Coming in at number 21 will be Yu Darvish. 22, Alex Bregman. 23, Bo Bichette. 24, Walker Buehler. 25, Lucas Giolito. 26, Nolan Arenado. 27, Xander Bogaerts. 28, Corey Seager. 29, Ozzie Albies. And rounding out the top 30 is Aaron Nola, who pitches for the Philadelphia Phillies. So, first what I see is there's a lot of starting pitchers within the top 30. Aaron Nola, Walker Buehler, Yu Darvish, Trevor Bauer, Shane Bieber, Garrett Cole, Jacob deGrom. So that's what I see first. I don't know if I missed anyone. There's a lot of names here. I don't believe I missed anyone. There's a lot of pitchers. There's about 5 pitchers within the top 30, and there's 2 pitchers within the top 10. DeGrom coming in at number 6, and Cole coming in at number 9. So there's obviously a ton of pitchers. So that's something you got to take into consideration as well when you're drafting. And I'm going to take that too into consideration, right? There's a lot of good pitchers out there, right? The 30 ranked pitcher is Aaron Nola. We haven't even gotten in to some of these other guys. We haven't even gotten into the Max Scherzers and, if healthy, the Strasburgs and the Blake Snells. We haven't even gone into those guys. So there's so many pitchers out there. So I look at it as pitchers might want to be a target mid-rounds because there's so many out there. So even if DeGrom and Cole are off the board, that's not great, but you still got Buehler, you still got Bauer, you still got guys like Strasburg and Scherzer and Snell and Darvish and Nola. I mean, you still have so many guys. I believe Arrieta is going to have a decent year. There's so many different guys. So that's one thing I look at early on here, looking at this list. Lucas Giolito, he's another one in the top 30. I look at this list as there's a lot of really good pitchers out there. So, take advantage of that, but also at the same time, if you see DeGrom pop off the board, you still got Giolito. You still got 10, 15 other really good pitchers out there. And you can even look at the Mets. You still got Carlos Carrasco. You got DeGrom. You've got Stroman. Yankees, too. Not that you're going to look to target Corey Kluber early, but if you're in the late rounds, he's a guy you could look to target. Garrett Cole, guys like that. Would I love to get as much best players as I can? Yeah, but just realize that if you don't get one of the top pitchers, you still have Sonny Gray, Patrick Corbin. There are so many guys out there that you can look at. I mean, Hyun-Jin Ryu, one of the best pitchers in the American League, is ranked 77th on this list. So there's so many pitchers. Jack Flaherty, there's so many good pitchers out there. Luis Castillo, I'm just naming them out now. So that's one thing that I realize here. There's a lot of pitchers. So maybe something you do first here, target some of these guys like Trouts. Because not every day you're going to get a Trout. There's not too many players out there that are like Trout. So there's a lot of pitching depth. And you only have a couple pitcher spots. As a matter of fact, I can look at my lineup here. It's empty, but I can look at how it is. Let me get into this here. I believe my lineup consists of, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pitchers. So you get 9 pitchers. And you get some bench spots as well. So you get about 9 pitchers. 9 pitchers, it looks like. So you get batters, 9 pitchers, and then I guess you could even add on. So you can get like 15 pitchers. You can get a ton of pitchers, which is good. And obviously you're gonna have your prime pitchers. You're gonna have your pitchers. You're gonna have your prime pitchers. You're gonna have the guys that you're gonna look at to try to get. Like I'm gonna look at to get DeGrom and Cole. I'm gonna try my best to get them. Do I think I will get them both? It's gonna be hard. You're gonna have to hope that the other people in the draft don't take them. That's one of the big things too. Is a lot of times it's out of your control of who you get. Right? You could go into with this great plan. And I've learned this sometimes too. You go into this great plan of, I'm going to draft this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And all of a sudden, the person in front of you drafts him. And you're sitting there like, that's not good. But that's one thing I notice here. A couple changes I would make. Bauer, I would personally put a little higher in this list. Mayhew, I might put him a little higher in this list. You got to realize he's one of the best hitters in the MLB. He doesn't strike out much. That's big for fantasy baseball, a guy who doesn't strike out much. And a guy like Bryce Harper, he strikes out a little bit more. Although last season, Bryce Harper didn't strike out much. So you got to take that into consideration too. A guy like Bo Bichette, I'm very high on Bo Bichette. I would honestly slip him into my top 20. I would move LeMahieu up. LeMahieu's hit the strikeout percentage, I would say, is a whole lot better than Machado's. I could be wrong on that, but if I believe, looking at the numbers, I believe it is. You got to realize LeMahieu doesn't strike out much. He very rarely strikes out. So that's big for fantasy, because a guy who doesn't strike out is exactly who you're going to want. So I'm going to look at a guy like him. Francisco Lindor with his new team with the Mets. He had a little bit of a down year last year, but I do strongly believe, especially if you're a Mets fan, this is a guy you're going to want to target. That's another thing, too. He makes plays in the infield. This is a guy who's not going to make many errors. So he's not going to get much minus points on that. He's not going to make many errors. He's going to make plays. And he's going to do his job. And same thing here. He doesn't strike out much either. He's a good contact hitter. Trevor Bauer gets a lot of strikeouts, which is really good for fantasy. Gets a lot of strikeouts. He's going to get 10 strikeouts, 13 strikeouts a couple games this season. That's big for fantasy. So he's a guy I might even bump higher in the list. And then to get lower into the 20s, I would put a guy like a Nolan Arenado. I would even slip Nolan Arenado in front of like an Alex Bregman. I think Nolan Arenado is a better third baseman than Alex Bregman. And I don't think that's crazy to say. Nolan Arenado is probably one of the best defensive players in the MLB and is a very solid hitter too. Bregman might not strike out as much, but Nolan Arenado, better defender, and I would say overall a better hitter. And he's going to a new team in the Cardinals, fresh start over there. I feel like I'm prepared for having. I wouldn't be surprised to see Nolan Arenado have a huge year. There's a lot of different guys here. Jack Flaherty, he would be a guy too. JT Realmuto, he's not healthy right now, but when he comes back from that broken hand, which might be a reason his stock falls here a little bit, could be something as well. Eloy Jimenez had one of the best. The White Sox were the surprise team last year. I expect him to have another big year too. He's a guy in the outfield. Guy who doesn't get injured much, guy who's going to make plays in the outfield. Max Scherzer, I would put him way higher on the list. I think Max Scherzer is still a top 5 pitcher in the MLB, but they ranked him number 32 here. So that's kind of position players. And like I said, you got to look. Guys that aren't great, guys that are good at not striking out, that's big. Like a guy like LeMahieu doesn't strike out much. That's big because strikeouts are going to hurt you. To get to some of the catchers, the top 10 catchers are JT Realmuto, Salvador Perez, I talked about him yesterday, Will Smith, Wilson Contreras, Yasmani Grandal, Travis d'Arnaud, Gary Sanchez, James McCann, Sean Murphy, and Christian Vasquez. I don't know if I would put Gary Sanchez at number 7. That's just how this list is. A guy I've been targeting and looking at is Pedro Severino. He had a very good year last year with Baltimore. Young, very talented, very solid player there. Yadier Molina, a little bit older, but still's got it in him. He could still get a couple good hits here and there. I'm definitely going to look for Salvador Perez. Realmuto will be, if Realmuto is there, I will take him. But with his broken hand, and I don't think he's expected to make opening day, I want a guy who's healthy to start out the season. Because then that could just snowball into more injuries. And Salvador Perez, too. Young team is going to get a lot of at-bats. He's going to get his opportunities. I think he's one of the best catchers in the league. So, definitely there. Another guy, too, who doesn't always crank home runs. He's a guy that's going to get hard line drives, keep the strikeout numbers low. Very good defensively at catcher, too. Top 25 first baseman. Mayhew's actually on this list because he has played first base before. Voigt's on this list. Alonso's on this list. Muncy, a lot of good guys. The one problem I have with, a guy like a Voigt or Alonso, their strikeout numbers could be a little high. I really like Voigt. He's a very good player, but his strikeout numbers could be a little high. That's the one thing there. But when he catches fire and he's on fire and he's got good power there. Rhys Hoskins, he's another dude. Not a great, not much strikeouts. Which is good there. Second baseman, Mayhew obviously leads the way. So, obviously, a bunch of different players. Ozzie Albies, Whit Merrifield, Jeff McNeil. If Jeff McNeil can stay healthy, he's solid. Third baseman, Jose Ramirez. LeMahieu also has played there, but LeMahieu's main position is second base. I gotta see, Gio Urshela comes in at number 20. I would even put Turner a little higher on that list. A lot of people, Turner and that's another thing too. Turner, late in the season, just something about him's big. Come playoff time, that's a big asset for you. And Turner, another guy too, who stays healthy. Shortstops, Tatis Jr., number 1. I would put Bo Bichette. I think Bo Bichette's a top 5 shortstop in the league right now. I think Bo Bichette's one of the better players right now. Bo Bichette, he's very good. Maybe it's just me, but he's just dominant. Outfielders, Ronald Acuna Jr., Mookie Betts, Soto, and Trout. Trout, the only thing that might propel me over Soto is a little bit is just his defense. Soto is very good at hitting and all, but Trout's defense is, I still think, at the top of the league. Starting pitching, DeGrom, Cole lead the way. No surprise there. I would put Bauer into the top 3, honestly. If you're looking for a guy who gets a lot of strikeouts, Bieber and Bauer are very good. There. Relief pitchers, Josh Hader, no question about it. Chapman makes the top 3 here. Edwin Diaz, I don't agree with that. Trevor Rosenthal, I would say, would even bump up. Had a very solid year last year with the Padres. Go into Oakland, I think he's going to really be big there. And in 5 deep sleepers to know, Ronald Guzman, Josh Naylor, Michael Straw, Drew Smiley, Tejan Antone. So those are nothing crazy. But I would say mainly the guys to look at are guys like Acuna, guys like Trout, and the guys like that they're going to fall off the board quick, but if you get the opportunity to take them, take advantage of that. So that's kind of what I got for fantasy baseball. Comment down below if you have any questions. I will answer them. I love the comments. If you have any questions on fantasy, I'll give you my advice with it. You don't have to take it, but I'll give you my advice with it. If you ask me a question like, who should I take? Is player 1, who do you think is going to generate more points? Player 1 or player 2? I'm not going to put a player out there. I'm just, thinking of many different, options. Or who's a better defender? Who do you think is going to strike out less this season? Who's going to hit more home runs? Something like that. It could be millions of things. So if you have any questions, comment down below. I'll answer them as best as I can. And I'll give you what I think. You might think differently, but I'll at least give you my opinion on it. So that's what I got for fantasy baseball. And coming up next, or we could honestly just do it right now. Let's get into the New York Sports Update. Should be pretty good there. New York Sports Update. Speaking of fantasy, I'm on the app right now. Yes, the draft is tonight. I don't think the position's not out yet of when I'm picking. So that doesn't come out yet. The position of when you're picking, that won't come out yet. So we'll see how all that plays out. But like I said, hopefully I get a good pick. That's all I'm asking for is just to get a good pick. That's really all I'm asking. I don't want to get the last pick, but first pick, I guess would be nice. But anywhere within that top 3 pick range would be nice. Top 5, somewhere around there where you can get your hands on a guy like a Trout or someone like that, because those guys are rare. Those guys are rare to have. And to have on your fantasy baseball team would definitely be a huge help on trying to win a championship. So let's get into New York sports and then fantasy update there. So yesterday in college basketball, USC won, Alabama won, Florida State won, Michigan won, Creighton won, UCLA won, Gonzaga won, and Oregon won. So a couple upsets there. No basketball on today. We have the Sweet 16 matchups next week, or on the weekend. So a little bit of a halt in the action. But as for the NHL, yesterday the Sharks won, Golden Knights won, Avalanche won, Jets won, Wild won, Islanders won, Senators won, and Hurricanes won. Rangers also won yesterday. Rangers also won yesterday 5-3. We moved to 14, 13, and 4 in the season. Like I mentioned earlier, big win for us. If we can get into here, Kakko had 2 goals, Kreider had 2 goals, and Fox had a goal as well. Panarin had a couple assists, which was really good. So a good win for them. As for today, we got the Flyers, Devils. I'll give Flyers the win. Panthers, Blackhawks, give Panthers the win. Red Wings, Predators, give Predators the win. Stars, Lightning, give Lightning the win. And Avalanche, Coyotes, give Avalanche the win. As for the NBA yesterday, the Clippers won, Grizzlies won, Rockets won, Bucks won, Jazz won, Hornets won, Thunder won, and Kings won. Today we got Nuggets, Magic, I'll give Nuggets the win. Pelicans, Lakers, I'll give Pelicans the win. Knicks, Wizards, I'll give Knicks the win. Suns, Heat, give Suns the win. And 76ers, Warriors, give 76ers the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 29-14. Trailblazers come in this game 25-17. The Trailblazers are 4-point favorites for this game. The over-under is 235 for this game. This game comes on today, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Find us on NBCS NW, which I get the Spurs or the Trailblazers stuff, and you could also find on Yes Network. So that should be pretty good there. I guess I'll give the Nets a win. I'm not feeling confident about the game because Kyrie's out, but Blake Griffin and hopefully Harden get the job done. As for today in baseball, we got the Cardinals, Nationals. I'll give Nationals the win. Rays, Orioles, give Rays the win. Braves, Red Sox, give Braves the win. Pirates, Twins, give Pirates the win. Mets, Marlins, I'll give Marlins. Marlins have been real good. Rangers, Angels, I'll give Angels the win. Giants, Indians, I'll give Giants the win. Rockies, A's, give A's the win. Cubs, White Sox, give Cubs the win. Brewers, Dodgers, give Dodgers the win. Padres, Reds, give Padres the win. Blue Jays, Phillies, give Blue Jays the win. And then Diamondbacks, Mariners, I'll give Mariners the win. Yankees also play today. Yankees come in this game 13-7-1. Tigers come in this game 9-11-1. Corey Kluber on the mound, pitching well. Might as well give him a win. Yankees lost yesterday, by the way, but hopefully they get the win today. Obviously, that should be, hopefully that's the case. And then let's get into New York fantasy, and then that's it for the podcast. So as for fantasy basketball, I'm currently winning 233 to 197. Today I've got going Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal. My team's really hurting right now. Irving's obviously out due to personal. Oladipo's day-to-day. Oladipo will be held out of Monday's game against Toronto for maintenance purposes. Kenya Bianji of The Athletic reports. So he's still out. Davis is still out. Turner's day-to-day. Turner ankle will not play Monday against the Bucks. And Kemba Walker's day-to-day. Walker will play Sunday versus the Magic, but will be out for Monday's game against blah, blah, blah. So that's that. Which isn't ideal to have 2 players going. But at the end of the day, it's 2 good players. It's Bradley Beal, and it's, so I guess at the end of the day, it's 2 solid players. And as for fantasy hockey, I'm currently winning 17-11, so going pretty good there. Today I've got going Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Joe Pavelski, Jacob Shystrom, and that's that. And Jack Eichel's on IR. Eichel neck was placed on injured reserve Monday, according to Cap Friendly. So he's on IR. I've already got him on my IR spot, so that's kind of that. Which isn't good, but at the end of the day, he hasn't done much anyway this season. So I guess it's not terrible, given that he hasn't done much anyway this season. But yeah, I mean, tonight got the fantasy baseball draft. Super excited for that. I'm ready for that. It's going to be good. It's going to be hopefully a good draft. Hopefully I get the players that, I believe are best. And obviously tomorrow I'll come on and tell you who my team is. I don't know if I'm going to do a full segment on it. I might. I don't believe I did it for basketball. I usually just tell you who I picked. Because I can go on and on and on about why I picked a player. And it's tough to even tell who has the best team until the season even starts. Especially how baseball works. It's 162 games. There's going to be a lot of changes and stuff. I mean, I notice I make a lot more moves in hockey and stuff instead of like fantasy football because there's so many games, different stuff, right? So, but anyway, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.